What is LSU really doing on the offensive line? Because that is something where Florida State, if I'm going into this game, getting after the quarterback is going to be key. Florida State was able to do it last year with Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas. Those two guys no longer on the field, but they are, watching spring, they're going to have two guys that are ready to go. One that being a veteran that has had really good flashes, but didn't get a lot of playing time because Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas. And then Jared Verse comes in, who was a really highly touted JUCO player that came in and is really, really talented and can get to the quarterback. What are your thoughts on the LSU offensive line? Is there some cause of concern there? Because you said they're still trying to figure out their starting O-line, or there's some guys that left and there might be some holes for Florida State to take advantage of?
Yeah, they have a lot of holes. For one, their best offensive lineman right now is a true freshman. Now, he was a top 50 true freshman in Will Campbell, but he was the most dominant offensive lineman in the spring, and he's probably going to be a freshman All-American. He's a real deal. And figuring out what the rest of that group is going to look like, one of them is actually a transfer from the Florida Reason, and Miles Frazier. He'll probably start one of the guard spots. And overall, that offensive line, trying to find the best five is going to be difficult. However, the real strength of LSU's team is their wide receiver room. And they probably have, the best wide receiver room in the SEC. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. And then, maybe only Ohio State has a better wide receiver room than what LSU has going into next year. Now, there's a lot of other weaknesses on this team, but by far their strength is going to be their wide receivers. So essentially, this is going to come down to how Florida State secondary is going to match up against Kayshon Boutte, who's probably wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 going into next year's NFL draft. They also have Jack Besh and Malik Neighbors, future first, second, and third round picks themselves. So that is where LSU's strength is, and it's also been their strength of the past decade. It's been by far their strongest position on offense year after year, and that's going to be the difficult thing. Can Florida State secondary match up against what LSU's guys out wide have to do?
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that real quick because Florida State's DB room, at least definitely set at the corner position, it was a big question mark, was one of my biggest question marks going into the spring on who are going to be your starters. And, man, I mean, Florida State does have talent there, but it's young. It's very young and not a whole lot of experience. I mean, they've got college experience, but not as much as I would like, or any FSU fan would like, going into, like you said, facing a very strong opponent that has a stacked room in the wide receiver area. And, you got to hope that Florida State on their side, these young guys can come up and play, because, Marion Cooper, Kevin Knowles, those guys have the abilities. We saw them. We saw Marion Cooper have a really good game against Clemson, and that was nice to see on the road. But, this is going to be a different state for him, where he's going to be an expected starter this upcoming season. You've got Renardo Green on the other side, who at the end of spring camp was starting to feel fully healthy again, and, was thrown into there to be cornerback 2. There's a lot of young guys there, is what I'm trying to put out. And, that's where it's going to be a battle. And I think we're starting to kind of figure that out now, that, that offensive line for LSU versus Florida State's defensive line is going to be a key factor, because, you can try to throw as much, but if Florida State's defensive line can get back there, if Florida State's defensive line can't get back there, then I start, for FSU fans, you're going to be a little worried about some problems there in the secondary. And,